Right, the next thing that we're going to talk about in this section is statistical versus practical significance. A result is statistically significant when the null hypothesis is rejected. The difference between the data estimated value for a parameter and the null hypothesis value for a parameter is so large it cannot be convincingly explained by chance. So statistically significant means our null hypothesis is rejected. However, statistically significant findings do not necessarily mean the results are useful. So if we were looking at useful results, then we are looking at a practically significant result. So it's practical because it is both statistically significant and meaningful. All right, so let's look at an example. In the past years, it was believed that roughly 49% of Americans had visited a library. An association of librarians wishes to know whether attendance is declining. They examined a 2013 survey in which only 48% of these in a random sample had attended a library in the last year. Using a significance level of 1%, they carry out a hypothesis test. The p-value is 0.0587. They send out a press release that says, "We have proved there is no decline in library attendance." What mistakes were made? How can we correct them? And do we think this result is statistically significant, practically significant, neither, or both? All right, so what mistakes were made? Our big mistake that we see is in our interpretation. We don't like using words like proved. So they have not proved that the null hypothesis is true. They have simply not rejected the null hypothesis. So it's not necessarily true, they just haven't rejected it. Right? How can we correct them? What we could say instead is there is not enough evidence to conclude library membership has declined. Right, so instead of using words like proved, we say, well, there's not enough evidence to basically prove otherwise. Do we think this result is statistically significant, practically significant, neither, or both? Remember, statistically significant means that we have rejected the null hypothesis, and in order to be practically significant, it has to be statistically significant. So in this case, we are going to say neither, because the null hypothesis was not rejected. So as you're going through and we're looking at different problems in the section, we talk a little bit about mistakes, and then make sure you know the difference between statistically significant and practically significant.